Hey, welcome everybody. I'm glad you're all here. If you find a place to sit, that'd be fantastic. You know, it's been quite a day, hasn't it? It's been a lot of insightful discussions and conversations in immense, both on the auditorium as well as in our sessions in and around the space. But this afternoon, there's something that we're going to be able to have a really interesting discussion around: presentation, interaction. And that's with Laura Frank. And Laura's, really looking at the whole issue about the immersive worlds. I'm going to date myself a little bit. I started building immersive worlds back in the 90s with a fellow called Steven Spielberg, and we started doing 3D multi-user worlds in that engagement in different types of ways that interactions took place. And all of that has just evolved to such a level that I'm really excited and very interested to see what Laura is going to be bringing us this afternoon. So with that, Laura, could you please come up and dazzle us with what you've been creating? Because it's really interesting. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello, new friends. You're welcome to come a little closer. We're a little intimate group to start the final run of the afternoon. I have a lot of information I want to share, so I'm going to be on book and moving quickly. So the immersive world beyond 16.9. I gave my talk a subtitle as I was building it. I want to talk about designing video systems for spaces and not frames. So thank you to SVG and the whole team running this event. I'm really happy to be here. I'm going to skip introducing myself further until the end of the talk, depending on how much time is left, so I can dive right into my thesis. I think it's time to build a paradigm for non-16:9 video displays in private space. We need to be looking forward to home and office and how we break out of the frame of 16:9. And I believe we accomplish that from the workflows learned in the creative video production and entertainment and immersive environments. So what I want to share today is how to see video systems as designing for spaces and not for frames, and that moving imagery should be defined by the place it occupies first, and then we engineer how to get there. So to explore my thesis, we're going to borrow from all the years I've spent building multi-screen display systems for live entertainment, and particularly something I've spent way too much time thinking about. What is the most efficient method to cover a stage with video content? I would like to introduce you to what I call the delivery raster. You may have worked with tool sets like this, pixel maps, raster maps. There is some template that is defined when you have a multi-screen environment to move content off a playback device to screen. So this is a little bit of video history. It's from the Video Music Awards in 2018. And it's not an artistic canvas, first of all. Think of it as a shipping layout. It's a communication point between the creative team and the media operations team. It's a step on the content production pipeline for a spatial video system. These are multi-screen environments that have their own physical depth. So you have screens no longer in a plane, but in an environment that you need to consider how to deliver content to. In these types of projects, you have a content production pipeline for the content creators, a signal delivery pipeline for the engineers, and in between, there is a media operations pipeline. I want you to think of media operations as the combination of content management and video show control. So this delivery raster, it's designed to describe the most efficient collection of pixels to deliver content and play it back. It's not pixel density accurate, it's not visually logical, it's operationally logical, and that's its distinction. Media operations is where creative video playback diverges from traditional linear playback. The program isn't a timeline of clips, it's a topology that must stay coherent while the show goes on. So how does the creative team design for the pixels packed inside this box? I give you the design raster. This is a separate document. It's an unwrap of the scenic screens so the content team can think in surfaces, staging intent, and in negative space. This particular design raster for the VMAs was over 10,000 pixels by 4,500 pixels, delivering 45.8 million pixels through the media signal pipeline. This raster is also not pixel density accurate, but it is visually logical, and it's also nearly 3 times the size of the file we had delivered in the delivery raster. So think of this design process as normalizing the screen surfaces in creative video development. The designers don't care about the per product resolution as much as, will this look good in the room? And they don't care about the delivery backbone either. They care that the pixels land where intended. So successful immersive video spaces, we start with the environment design and we paint it with pixels. This is supported by a template structure that represents the natural layout of the environment and not the restrictions of an engineering signal flow. Often I see a tendency to break down these workflows by using the boundaries of the technological infrastructure rather than the option to form pixels in space. When we often embark on a creative or operational task with a mental limit of 16:9 infrastructure thinking. So instead, in my remaining 10 minutes or so, I want to leave you with a new mental model, spatial design thinking for immersive video, and why the future of video in private space is about topology and not aspect ratio. To do that, we need to bridge 3 important things: the creative or informational goals of that video content, the operational realities of organizing that content, and the engineering capabilities for delivering spatial display environments. So again, turning back to this design raster, think of these screen shapes, and then that's what it gets mapped to. This set by Julio Himide in 2018 included 7 different types of video outputs, including an LED-banded moon man. And we had a 5-day production cycle with 9 different content teams for a 3-hour live show. So in our pipeline we're discussing, this is the next step, map in the media operations process. When the creative video team has designed their content and optimized it for delivery and playback, we get into mapping that content onto the set through our playback system. And the audience gets to experience a 3-dimensional arrangement of screens as one cohesive statement, with all the depth, layering, and surfaces working in concert together. Then and only then do we start thinking about infrastructure, when the media server breaks down our delivery raster into its component signal parts to meet all these screens on the set. These are predefined 16:9 signals with the video system engineers that are produced within the media server itself, which in the delivery raster playback remaps the information in that raster to those signal outputs. This is the important distinction in the creative video workflow. 16:9 is not the initiator of our process. It's just a backbone. It's the backbone that enables delivery to screen through a variety of gear in the signal chain between playback and those screen surfaces. We rely deeply on this gear that lets us route, monitor, sync, and process tens of millions of pixels reliably, but it's not our boss. It's just part of the workflow. So in these spatial video configurations, they should be experienced by the audience as a unified environment. But we know our video infrastructure demands this environment is built on broadcast 16:9 feeds. And our job in media operations is to let the tech be the tech, the creative be the creative, and let operations and the playback platforms that we rely on bridge in between. So I want to take a look at what happened 20 years ago that made this workflow possible. Here's an example, I've got a laser now, of one of the delivery rasters. It's just a sample of content, the set lit up, and the team driving that content to stage from front of house. I see several factors that contributed to the creative video evolution. First, the media servers I've been discussing and the rise of creative video use in live entertainment design broke the one-to-one relationship between playback surface and playback device. And that's a really critical point in my career. The screen is not the signal source in immersive video design. While entertainment media servers were driving content playback for the scenic screens, meanwhile, LED became far more affordable and easy to deploy, allowing video teams to keep up with the demanding workflows that define live entertainment production timelines, which are high-demand, high-stress environments. As we learned efficiencies for these workflows that allowed for fewer pixels to be shipped, This equated to fewer processors, faster operations, and simpler image management. We learned to cheat, basically, in all that negative space to keep things in sync and looking cohesive. Also, my points about pixel density, I think we'd average, our goal was maybe 4 to 6 pixels per inch, which always looked great on camera for the most part. Of course, that is considered pretty average resolution these days. I think through all this experience and development with the media operations team that I worked with, the breakthrough for us of the media server market was it changed the traditional playback model from signal-centric to environment-centric. And that one idea drove us as a media operations team and our discipline. Content was created for the environment and then remapped downstream through playback platforms managed by the team responsible for the design and this design to engineering translation, basically making us pixel product managers. So I'm gonna move, because apparently I only have a few minutes left. This is a quick overview of the pipeline from design raster, as I was discussing for the content team, to the delivery raster, which is then shipped to the media operations team and broken out into the signal infrastructure and mapped to stage. And, you know, it's typically done with just a little bit of kit. So my challenge to the people in this room is, how do we get from all of these engineering tools and the people responsible for managing them into what I see as our next frontier, which takes all this and probably turns it into a single application? That's why I want to spend time talking about live entertainment content production workflows in these multi-screen spaces as we move forward into moving screens in these non-16:9 formats into private space. And I think some of those lessons are going to be informed about an equally interesting transition as we get into these mega screen stages where we have just a comprehensive video design as our stage. What I see is kind of the reverse of what I learned in so much of my career. Instead of taking all these separate frames and turning it into one cohesive video design, we now have to take these entire massive set canvases and then frame content within it to tell the audience where to look. IMAG, you know, any way you simplify information onto these big canvases so the audience knows how to experience the performance they came to see. And if you notice, of course, within the audience, you have a multitude of people carrying their own framing devices so they can get closer to the stage. Because if you've had any kind of design education, theatrical education, this breaks all the rules. We're upstaging the artist at every performance. And so we're desperately trying to find a way to create intimacy and direction, telling the audience how to now experience that tiny performer somewhere over here in this massive environment. We do the same thing as we transition into immersive experience. In these examples, now that the audience has become so comfortable with these massive display environments, now we bring them closer. But this has given us quite a new challenge in that these pixel counts rival the sphere. They're larger than the sphere. I think this projection mapped in Top of the Rock is the same pixel count as the sphere. This one is 32K by 16K. So while the audience has grown more accustomed to being in these surrounded immersive environments, we have a new problem in that we need to hyperscale our math to be able to deliver all these pixels reliably and in sync. And I think that challenge is going to inform this next transition into what I see as content in private space. And to do so, we have to deliver reliably at these content scales. And this becomes not only an engineering problem, but a coordination problem across construction planning, AV, integration, content development, and operations of all of these content elements. And so I think this is ripe for a media operations coordination process, something I see as in a growth phase in architectural installations, and largely absent from the discussion of what non-16:9 content would look like in private space. So we're learning all these valuable lessons, and what I wanted to think about moving forward is what this is going to feel like in our home, in our personal offices. This is the next frontier for me, and it's, I think, closer than we think. I don't think it equates to bigger TVs. It's not necessarily head-mounted displays. I think it's walls as canvases, and we have to define the paradigm for how we move content and allow just anyone, any homeowner or office manager, to become a signal engineer or media server or operations lead, probably with an app. So all of these lessons I've kind of quickly reviewed, we need to bring forward in this next transition into content and image management for private space. How we take this mini screen, mini frame paradigm for one image, you build these mega canvases for the home and office, divide the canvas up into focal points, deliver these proximity grade pixels of high quality, high upper resolution and sync, and make it operable by anybody with their phone. And so the product requirement for this home office environment is basically one wall, many sources. Sources as diverse as your phone, your laptop, Internet of Things dashboards, your entertainment streaming, and it all should be as easy to manage as Windows on a desktop, but with broadcast grade reliability under the hood. So that's why I'm spending my time on community and product. So this is what I want to share about me. I run as executive director Framework, which is a community org for people thinking in the same space of non-16 by 9 projects. And I'm also creator advocate at Megapixel, where we hope to be building these products to support this next phase. There you go.